Cheers.
Cheers.
You got chewing gum, a little
Yep.
caffeine in that baby there, Wally?
Military energy gum, 100 milligrams of caffeine.
So here's our question. Are the top songs from the summer of 1976, specifically July the 4th, vanishing from today's playlist? And spoiler alert, yes, they are. In fact, not a single top 10 from back then is a top 10 on the streaming list today. Wally, what do you think?
Well, I was kind of surprised at first, but some of these top 10 from back then are what we would call a novelty song or a one-hit wonder or a TV theme crossover that for whatever reason is trapped in the era and people today just not quite so interested.
And viewers, you're going to get exposed to all the information we've got. Together, we are going to do a discovery of the vanishing hits from 1976. I'm Phil Yale. That guy right over there, somewhere on the screen, that's Wally Tubell. And together, we're all going to be revisiting July the 3rd, 1976. July the 3rd, July the 4th. It's close enough.
Yeah, well, technically these songs were in the top 40 on July the 4th.
And we're going to turn the spotlight on not only the top 40, we're going to specifically look at the top 10 back then and now. And viewers, as we go through the list, and make a note, what were your favorite songs back then? And are they still your favorites today? In fact, Wally, let's just get started. We're going to go through the top 40. We're going to start at number 40 and work our way up. And viewers, on the screen, you're going to see a list of the first top 10 songs, starting with number 40. And by the way, we're using Cashbox instead of Billboard because I think Cashbox, well, it was determined by Jukebox plays, and real record store sales. I think that's a better indicator of what we were listening to back then. All right, here we go. I'm just going to name them off. Wally, you can comment on any of these as you want. A Fifth of Beethoven by Walter Murphy was the first one that came in at number 40. Full
It-
to
it's-
Cross.
it- Interesting disco track, all instrumental.
It is, and I got a note that did eventually reach number 1 on the Cashbox charts.
Yeah, it
There's
did.
this group called the Rolling Stones. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. It's a totally different song for them. It's Fool to Cry.
Yeah, I never heard of that song before, and I looked it up a little bit. It was a definite change of pace for them.
Yeah, yeah, it ain't no honky tonk women, that's for sure. Then some group called ABBA, I always mispronounce it, so I pronounce it both ways. Mamma Mia.
Yeah, big winner in streaming, and it was not very high back then, and it only peaked at number 32.
Yeah, and that came out after I Do, I Do, I Do. You'll never find another love like mine. That's by the Philly Sound New Rawls.
Oh, smooth, smooth, just love him.
Here's one that kind of passed me by, to be honest, and I'm a Carpenters fan. I Need to Be in Love. Um, yeah, I actually had to listen to it to get connected with that one. Any comments on that one?
Same here. I just listened to it, and it didn't ring any bells for me. Must have missed it back then.
Rhiannon, some group called Fleetwood Mac. You ever hear of them?
Yeah, yeah. Interesting that, what happened was the live version is what drove that one to tremendous popularity because Stevie Nicks, went on and on and on for like 8 minutes on stage.
Here's one that's going to surprise my girlfriend. The name of the group is Parliament. Tear the roof off the sucker. Give up the funk.
Yeah, I don't remember that song, but I just listened to it. It just sounded vaguely familiar. It's
Well, here's the thing. I could never give the title, but I clearly knew the song. And what's going to surprise Holly is the fact I can remember doing the bump to that song.
how about that?
I'll leave it at that. Oh, and then my main man comes in at number 33, Neil Diamond. It's off his Beautiful Noise album, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that one eventually would peak at number 11, and what I read was it doesn't do so well in streaming because he has so many other more bigger popular hits.
Yeah, I've done a couple of my top 10 Neil Diamond list, and it's on one of those lists. Here's a song I really like. It's by Keith Carradine, I think. It might be Carradine. It's called "I'm Easy." Comes in at number 32.
Yeah, he was an actor, and he was in a movie called Nashville, if I remember correctly. And there were two versions. There was sort of an acoustic version and a little souped up version. But once again, he's a one hit wonder, and it was trapped in that TV crossover thing, and so not such a big deal on streaming.
And then we got this another disco type song, and it's Vicky Sue Robinson, "Turn the Beat Around" at number 31.
Yeah, so that would top out at number 10. So it really climbed the charts back then, and it benefited from an early 90s remake by Gloria Estefan, which much dominates over top of the original. But the original carries, it gets a ride on the coattails effect.
Hey, viewers, just to let you know, we don't include any music in this. We just want to avoid all of the opportunities for copyright strikes. But Wally and I have put together a complete companion playlist. The link is going to be in the comments. You'll be able to hear every one of these songs in their entirety. That's the first 10 of our top 40. And already we're showing the eclectic nature of the music back in the 1970s. Wally, you mentioned TV. And that's going to be a common theme on this list, as I found out. Let's get into the second group of 10, starting at number 30. It's Happy Days.
Yeah, another crossover TV theme song. Apparently, in the mid '70s, we had a lot of very catchy TV theme songs, and they sold well. That one would top out at number 5 on the American Top 40, but once again, trapped in time because of that TV connection.
And you speak of TV, coming in at number 29. It's Beretta's theme, Keep Your Eyes on the Sparrow.
Same story. The interesting bit of trivia there is the guys on the record are a bunch of studio musicians, and one of them is Ray Parker Jr. when he was a very young man, before he was famous.
Ray
He played
Parker
guitar
Jr.
on
did
that one.
he did Ghostbusters?
That's right. And then he had about 8 or 9 other top 40 hits, so he would grow on to bigger things.
I'm glad I was able to pull that one off the top of my head. Some group called Aerosmith comes in at number 28 with Last Child.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. I just gave it about a 20-second listen a few minutes ago and didn't ring any bells, and I just didn't get a chance to dig into that one.
Yeah, that was on their album on, I think it was Rocks was the album. That came out after Toys in the Attic, which had,
Right.
Sweet Emotion on it, as I recall.
Yeah, so they an unusual, very hard rocking band that sort of crossed over to American Top 40.
All right, here's a song that I put in the same category as our number 1 song, which we'll get to in a second, and the name of the song is "Shannon." It's by Henry Gross.
Yeah, kind of a sad song, and I'd read a little bit about that one, and I didn't remember this or know about this till just the other day, but apparently Casey Kasem got caught live on a hot mic when he was recording American Top 40 back in the day, and he really got mad that they included this song in the list because it was so sad, and it came either right before or right after a real happy song, and he was ranting and raving about being a song about a dead dog. Who put this on my list? I don't want to talk about it.
Viewers, if you have not listened to this rant, it's available on YouTube.
Oh, you know about it then, eh?
Oh my
Good.
gosh, yeah, I think the name of the dog was Snuggles or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic moment, uh, for, uh, for Casey Kasem trivia buffs. And by the way, Henry Gross was the artist. As far as I'm concerned, that's what that song is. Coming in at number, 26 is "Moving" by Brass Construction. To be honest, I didn't know anything about this one.
Me neither, and I just didn't get a moment to dig into that one to find out about it.
The song sounded familiar when I did listen to it, but it isn't clearly something that's on my list. A group that's very good from the '70s, earlier '70s more so than mid to later '70s. The name of the group is America, Today's the Day.
Yeah, so once again, I think that's another one where it's sort of lost in the streaming by comparison to their more bigger popular hits.
Another TV one, Welcome Back, John Sebastian.
Yeah. And that TV show really launched John Travolta into the stratosphere. And so it kind of benefits from that. People are interested in Travolta. They look for his show. They find that. They go to the song. So that one That one doesn't do too terribly on streaming for a TV novelty song. It does all right.
Well, I think that's because of John Sebastian being with Lovin' Spoonful. Lovin'
True.
Spoonful
It had been,
is a
yeah,
is a
that's it's sort
is
of a
a
twofer.
group that is pretty popular on today's streaming list. Some group I've never heard of them before, the Beatles.
Yeah, yeah. So we all know this song, "Got to Get You Into My Life," and apparently, yeah, Capitol Records just was desperate to make some money, and they re-released the song that came out 10 years earlier as a single. But interestingly, I can't remember if it's on this list or somewhere else. Earth, Wind, and Fire also did a cover of "Got to Get You," and it was in 1976.
I didn't know that, but here's my B-side note for this episode, because I always like throwing in a B-side. The B-side to "Got to Get You Into My Life" inspired Charlie Manson. You know what the name of that song is?
Oh, well, I know he was a wannabe singer, and I know he was tied into somebody from the Beach Boys, but no, what's the B-side? Tell me.
Helter Skelter.
Oh, yeah, it's how could I forget?
Helter
Of
Skelter.
course I knew that. Of course I knew that. I was thinking of the song that he wrote and tried to sing and record.
And then, coming in at number 22, it's a spinoff of Happy Days, and it's the theme song, "Making Our Dreams Come True."
Yeah, Cindy Greco, one hit wonder, TV crossover, sat, um, topped out at 22, so it didn't go much better than what it did this week. This was probably about the peak for that song. But for those of us who grew up then, we all knew it. We all
Yeah,
loved
we sure did, and we're closing out this section at number 21. It's a song by the group Seals and Crofts, "Get Closer."
it. Yeah, so I remember this song, and it would peak at number 6, so it was on the way up on the 3rd of July, 1976. What I didn't know was that they really changed their style on this song. They brought in much more of an R&B kind of a feel and a little bit of a yacht rock feel, and it was a big change for them with this concept of blue-eyed soul, but it did well for them. It kind of revived their career a little bit.
That is the group I have the true hate-love relationship with.
Seals and Crofts?
Absolutely. They have one of my most hated songs and one of my most loved songs.
Oh, man.
The most loved is "We May Never Pass This Way Again." I've used that, lyrics from that line,
Yeah,
including in some
classic.
speeches I've made in my life. Then, the song I absolutely when I hear it, it's like fingernails on the chalkboard. It's called "Diamond Girl."
Oh, I know the one. Yeah, it was a big top 40 hit. Yep.
Oh, big top 40 hit back in the summer of 1973. I must have heard that song 15 times a day. I can't hear it anymore. I can't hear it anymore. Hey, he's Wally Tubell. I'm Phil Yale. We're going through the top 40 hits according to Cashbox back on July 4th of 1976, and we're going to a little bit later compare how these top songs did back then to how they're doing today. And just a couple real quick notes, and we'll get back into our top 20. Wally and I met through a Facebook group about the Michael Stanley Band, a legend here in Cleveland, Ohio. Wally is an incredible blogger, he's done a series on every one of the group and individual solo albums by Michael Stanley and Michael Stanley Band. As just a reminder, Stage Pass was recorded in 1976, so 50 years ago, that Stage Pass album was
That's
recorded
the
then.
one that got me hooked. I didn't hear it till 1981, but that's the one that got me hooked.
And I bring this up, just a little bit of a commentary. I bring this up. Our connection is through music. Wally and I have never met in person. We've met just through social media talking about music, and we just love listening to music, talking about music, researching music. And if you viewers are just like us, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, we're
Uh,
music nerds. We got to stick together.
and if you would like to join me for an episode or join us for an episode, let us know in the comments as well.
Yeah.
Or drop me a line at info@philyale.com. That's info at PHILYALE.com. All right, let's get back to our cash box. This is the top 20 is where we're going to get into. A song, candidly, I just didn't know anything about, and that's Marvin Gaye's "I Want You."
Yeah, same here. I didn't remember it, but I listened to it, kind of liked it. Very smooth. Again, it was kind of a change of pace for him. He, gave up his sort of a raw funk sound and went more for this more, deeper, soulful sound. And it worked for him. This song would top out at 15, and it does fairly well in streaming today. So good on Marvin.
And I checked it out. Actually, I was thinking it might have I know it wasn't. I thought it might have been a cover of Bob Dylan's
Oh,
"I
really?
Want You." It's not. Um,
No.
then a song we're gonna talk more about later, and that's called "You're My Best Friend" by some group called Queen.
Yeah. Huge. That's all I'm going to say for now. More later.
Then a band that we all grew up with, the Beach Boys. This ended a 7-year drought where they weren't on the charts. Their previous hit was back in '68 or '69. It was "I Can Hear Music." They are back on the charts with rock and roll music.
Yeah, so I read about this. The record label wanted to follow up their 1974 album Endless Summer, which was the greatest hits, and they came up with this, which was kind of a retro song. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's a Chuck Berry uh, melody. So Chuck Berry got credit for the on the songwriting, and it worked for them. Did very well. Peaked out at number 5, but I do think it was their last big hit until the late '80s when that movie Kokomo came. Or There was a movie that came out with Tom Cruise, and there was a song called Kokomo,
Kokomo, that's
and
right.
that brought them back in the late '80s. So they're the band that just seems to never go away.
Boy, this is just an iconic artist. Diana Ross, "Love Hangover."
Oh yeah, I mean a classic from Motown, who grew up in a girl group and then became went out on her own. And she probably had a string of 15 or 20, top 40 hits back in the day. And I don't think she performs anymore, but if she does, you got to see her.
They came in that song comes in at number 17. Coming in at 16 and 15 are 2 songs we're gonna talk about a little bit later. The Boys Are Back in Town and Taking It to the Streets.
Yeah, I'll have more to say about them in a little bit.
Yeah. "I'll Be Good to You." Brothers Johnson comes in at 14.
Yeah, arranged by Quincy Jones, which I
Oh,
found interesting. And so there's a little bit of that R&B connection there. And it has dropped off in popularity and streaming, but it would peak out at number 3 back in the day. So it was on the way up on the 3rd of July, 1976, with a way still to go.
Daryl Hall and John Oates, "Sarah Smile."
Yeah, they're quite the pair. And I read something the other day. Daryl Hall said nobody wants to see Daryl Hall; they want to see Hall and Oates. And those guys get together, and then they break up, and they get together. I think they're apart right now. But yeah, that one
Yeah,
did very well. It was on the way up, and it does fairly well in streaming.
"Take the Money and Run." Steve Miller comes in at number 12.
Oh yeah, he was. He had about 6 or 7 really good years in the mid '70s, right up till the early '80s, and this is another good one, and does fairly well in streaming.
This is the song that's got the line in it that English teachers absolutely hate. "Billy Mack is a detective down in Texas. You know, he knows just exactly what the facts is."
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's a it's a line, uh, it's a hook. It's
It
a
is.
it's a
It's got
hook.
it's got a rhyme, and the number of syllables has got to be right. And so sometimes it's nonsense, but it works. Paul McCartney is famous for writing songs that don't make any sense at all, but it works.
Well, some of them work.
Some of them. Yeah, some of them.
Some of them work. We're gonna hear a little bit from Paul McCartney a little bit as well. Hey,
Yeah.
coming in at number 11, a contemporary of Michael Stanley and just one pop icon. He absolutely loved pop music. He loved pop music, and that's Eric Carmen comes in with "Never Gonna Fall in Love Again."
Yeah, so he went through, he kind of crossed from that sort of power pop, sort of hard rock and pop music, and he got into these ballads, and boy, they worked for him. He sold millions of records with those ballads. And yeah, it's we lost him about 18 months ago. What a story, Eric Carmen.
Yeah, before that, he was with the group called the Raspberries. Hey,
Yeah.
we've covered 30 of the top 40. We're gonna get into our top 10 here. You like the content, do you? I hope you do. Uh, if you do, please help us out. A couple things. Just listen to more episodes. That helps out. Comments. Wally and I love reading the comments.
Yeah. That's how I
Please
got on the show, by writing some comments to Phil.
write
Write some
comments.
comments.
If you don't like what we're talking about, let us know that as well. And we've got on this channel, we got episodes like this. We got a long-standing series on trivia, pop music trivia with Trip Rogers. It's called Tripping Up. I've got this whole new thing I'm launching called Unfiltered, where I get a little bit raw with some of my comments. Share this with others. If you're so inclined, subscribe. A lot of other podcasters, they push subscribe, subscribe. If you want to, great. If not, as long as you listen and enjoy it, that's really what I'm interested in. All right, it's July the 4th. It's patriotic time. You think we need some fife and drums for the top 10? Instead of just a drum roll, I'll see if I can find the sound effect with fife and drum corps.
Yeah.
Coming in at number 10, we've mentioned the name before. It's John Travolta, Letter N.
Yeah, so how could they not cash in on hit? 1976 was the year of John Travolta, and obviously he had some singing talent, and they cashed in on it. And he had a couple, three or four songs. What's interesting about his streaming numbers on this one is overwhelmed by the songs he performed in movies. This was a studio recording, record only. And it did well at the time, but it suffers in streaming because his movie songs do better.
In fact, Tripping Up episode with Trip Rogers, we did an entire episode on the movie songs that were top 40 hits that John
Ooh.
Travolta was somehow connected with.
Oh, cool.
That song eventually would peak, Letter N would peak at number 5. Coming in at number 9 is definitely a sound of the era. It's Gary Wright, Love is Alive.
Yeah, so no guitars on that song, all synthesizer. And that is what drives streaming for that, because some people look for no guitars. But once again, it was a big hit. It peaked at number 2, but it's still relatively obscure compared to his much bigger hit, Dreamweaver, which we talked about a few weeks ago when we were looking at the albums.
Moonlight Feels Right. This is a one-hit wonder by the group Starbuck. Not the coffee place, although I think I'll have a sip of coffee here. Starbuck and their one-hit wonder, Moonlight
Y-
Feels Right.
Yeah, so not a jugger. It peaked at number 3 in the record sales, not doing so well in streaming, but it does halfway well because it's kind of a yacht rock kind of song. And as we talked about before, yacht rock has all these playlists and algorithms on all the streaming platforms. And so if you're associated with that genre, good on you.
That eventually would peak at number 2. Then we've got this song called Shop Around. It's by the group Captain and Tennille. This was prior to their TV show.
Yeah,
Um,
so a cover of an older song, but really did well for them, and not so well on streaming, probably because, again, compared to their more famous songs, it's a little bit lesser known.
Get Up and Boogie, Silver Convention comes eventually would get to number 1.
Yeah, so I read something very interesting yesterday about this on a Facebook group about classic 70s songs. This song only has 6 words in the lyrics,
Yes.
and it's because they didn't speak English, and they were a European band, and so they gave them 6 words. They learned that's it, over and over again.
Hey, if you wanna know what the lyrics are, it's all in the title. Get Up and Boogie, that's right. Misty Blue comes in at number 5.
Yeah,
Dorothy Moore.
that didn't ring any bells for me, but when I listened to it on Spotify, I thought, wow, this is really a good soulful pop song. What in the heck happened to it, and how did I miss it in the 70s?
A
But I
song
like it now.
and a song, Wally, candidly, I'm surprised it was that it toward the top of the list back then, and even it's doing pretty well even now. It's Kiss and Say Goodbye by the Manhattans.
Yeah, a soul classic. It does fairly well today because of, it's just got this message. It's that people seem to love, and it fits in this classic soul, 70s R&B, quiet storm essentials, whatever that is. That's a playlist. That's a curated thing. So curators, the humans on the streaming platforms that manage this, they like that song, and so it gets a lot of streaming because we are driven to it.
Earlier, we talked about the lyrics, Get Up and Boogie, that's right. Well, here's another song, More, More, More. You want to know what this song is all about? It's More, More, More. If you want to know the lyrics and you want to sing along, go More, More, More. Andrea, True Connection.
Yeah, so again, I read about that one the other day, and the story was not quite the same as what I had thought from before. But the story I read the other day, she was a TV producer or a film producer, and she was filming somewhere in the Caribbean. They had a big strike, and there was a problem, and they couldn't do the filming, so she decides to make a record instead. She hired all local musicians down there in Jamaica. I think it was Jamaica, and big hit for her. And it doesn't do terribly on streaming. It does all right on streaming.
And here's another big hit. I don't know if you've heard of this guy. He shares the same birthday as I do, but he's never sent me a birthday card. I don't get
Oh
it.
man.
Paul McCartney, come on, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
He comes in at number 2. It would be his peak position for the song "Silly Love Songs."
yeah. So, what can we say, man? Paul McCartney, the guy's a legend. He's got more number one hits, more top 40 songs than just about anybody, and this is one of them. And did better in record sales than it does in streaming, according to the numbers. We'll talk about why a little bit, I think.
And then we get to the number 1 song for July the 4th, 1976, Starland Vocal Band with "Afternoon Delight."
Yeah, one hit wonder. But some of the websites I looked at said just the fact that it had the chorus "Skyrockets in Flight," which you have right behind you there, makes it the perfect Fourth of July song. And the record label timing release and the promotion, boom, pushed it to the top. Fourth of July, 1976. But one hit wonder, faded away, trapped in time, I think.
"Afternoon Delight." It ain't no delight for me.
I I wonder what that song's about.
Well, Kiss and Say Goodbye. Maybe we could tie all these titles together and come up
Oh,
with a
I'm
little
I'm
soap
sure we
opera.
could. I'm sure we could. I'm sure we could.
Hey, viewers, that's the list of the top 40 for, off of the Cashbox, f uh, for July the 4th, 1976. Actually, the, technical date is July the 3rd. Hey, I got introduced to Cashbox by Jeff Michaels. He has a great show called Music Expert Retro Countdown. It's like Casey Kasem's American Top 40, but on steroids. I'm telling you, it's just an unbelievably he has so much information he packs into his episode. You can listen to it on WTRSradio.com. I'm going to put up a screenshot showing somewhere on the screen is going to be all the different outlets you can listen to this weekly show. And little drum roll, little fife and drums core. Here we go. I'm excited to announce I'm subbing for Jeff on the weekend of July the 18th. And I'm counting down the top 40 hits for the week of July the 18th, 1970. That's a time frame where we had Mama Told Me Not to Come by Three Dog Night, They Long to Be Close to You by the Carpenters,
Mm,
Make It With You by Bread, and believe it or
classics.
not, I came across one of the most, I don't know, most interesting music trivia things I've ever come across. On the charts that week, in the top 40 is a vocalist on 3 different songs by 3 different groups.
One guy. Wow.
1 guy,
Wow.
3 groups, 3 different songs, and what's even more interesting, all the way down toward the bottom of the charts, he's in the top 100 with a solo effort. He's in the top 100. I had no idea. If you're
Wow.
interested, I hope you check out the episode and check out Jeff Michael's show. It's just incredible. Okay, we led off by saying that not a single top 10 back then is a top 10 streamer today. We've already covered that. We'll get into a little bit more detail on that, but you're probably wondering, you're saying, "Hey, Wally and Phil, start getting into the meat here. What are the top 10 songs now?" So these are taking that top 40 and using Spotify because it's like a virtual jukebox. Here is the song with the 10th most number of streams. It's "Taking It to the Streets" by the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah, great song, and it was a big change of sound for the
Oh,
Doobie
yeah.
Brothers. So because they brought their previous lead singer, Tom Johnson or Johnston, I can't remember. He had health issues and he left the band. They bring in Michael McDonald and he's written a whole bunch of songs that he brought with him, and it really changed their sound. And a lot of people probably didn't like it, but it worked for them. And they are considered one of the top yacht rock bands. And so when it comes to streaming, wow, if you're associated with yacht rock, you're going to do well on streaming. And whether they thought so back then, that's where they are today.
One of the most patriotic things we can do is we can vote. And if you were ask me to vote uh, Doobie Brothers with Michael McDonald or Doobie Brothers without Michael McDonald, I'll take Doobie Brothers without Michael McDonald. I'm in that camp for what it's worth. And for you vinyl folks, if you've still got your receiver in your turntable, number one. And number two, you got a pair of headphones. And number three, you got the album Toulouse Street. Put on the song Toulouse Street with headphones. It is probably my favorite song to listen to vinyl, and that's by the Doobie Brothers. But anyway, that's the 10th most streamed today. The ninth is the Beatles, "Got to Get You Into My Life."
Yeah. Yeah. So what do I see here? I see that, it really benefits from being a Beatles thing, kind of fill that little gap. We've been 6, 7 years without them on the radio. Today it's associated with a whole bunch of genres and playlists that the algorithms drive us to. 60s British invasion, 70s top 40, horn songs, because I think that's probably the first time the Beatles used a lot of horns in one of their songs. So it's who could have known back in 1966 the song they didn't even think was good enough to be a single would do so well and stand the test of time?
At number 8 is "You'll Never Find Another Love Like Mine," Lou Rawls.
Yeah, what a smooth song. And it's relative to the record sales, it's held up fairly well in streaming, and it benefits from a variety of algorithms, and it occupies some niches, the sophisticated soul and disco niche, and there are some tie-ins to pop culture. That song has been used in movies The Sitter, My Girl 2, and in several television shows that had big weddings. So, this constant reintroduction, especially like you have said before, in a visual medium, bam, bam, that's the 1-2 punch, the visual medium and the song tied together. Wow. So he's done well. Good for Lou.
You mentioned the visual part of it. One of the reasons that I didn't, uh, or we didn't use YouTube for the metrics for what's streaming today is that's heavily weighted toward the visual part of it. We use Spotify because that's where we go to listen to music, and that's what we were doing back in 1976.
Yeah.
The next song on our list as far as the most streamed today, Steve Miller, "Take the Money and Run."
Yeah. So once again, it's just it might have had those nonsense lyrics and whatnot, but he was on a roll and it did pretty well. And 164 million streams. And it relative to its record performance, the streaming is a tiny bit better. When you just look at the placement, it's a success for old Steve, and it's not even his biggest hit.
What was his biggest hit?
I would guess it'd have to be "Fly Like an Eagle," but maybe not. Maybe this is his biggest hit.
Hey, I just did a real quick calculation. This is off of Spotify. So you said he had a what, 164,000,000?
Yep,
How
yep,
much do you
that's it.
think? What do you think his Spotify income is?
Uh, $87.23.
$49,200.
Well, that's better than a sharp stick in the eye, but
Yeah,
still,
it is. Yeah, it is, but it's still compared to what they used to be able to make back in the day.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, Sarah's Smile is the next one on our list. It comes in with almost a quarter of a billion streams, I think.
yeah, 240 some thousand streams, and it's just about as popular today, count wise, as it was then with physical record sales. Um, and it's been sampled by other artists, Shaka Khan, Third Base, Tone Loc, mostly R&B type artists. So it draws more in streaming because other artists have sampled.
Then we got Fleetwood Mac, Rhiannon.
Yeah, so the thing that if you watch on YouTube, if you watch the episodes of the Midnight Special, you'll see the live version of Rhiannon, and you'll see Stevie Nicks doing that thing, and they have the imagery in the background of the scary tree and the witch and whatnot. That really is what launched this song. And back in '76, that was all word of mouth, because the studio version didn't communicate that. But people who saw the live show and or saw them on Midnight Special, that's what launched that song. 485 million streams.
They could turn Fleetwood Mac into a series on Netflix about
Absolutely.
all the different relationships they had going on, and
Oh yeah,
people wouldn't believe it, but it was true.
it'd be
Mix
a
in a
soap
little bit of
opera.
the Mamas and the Papas and their saga, that'd be some true, pop music and rock and roll history right there.
Yeah.
Alright, we're into the top 3. I gotta be honest, coming at number 3, it stuns me, absolutely stuns me. The 3rd most stream from the top 40 in 1976 is Thin Lizzy, The Boys Are Back in Town.
Oh, it's a great song. What I've found, looking into it a little bit, the band members did not want that song on their album. Now I didn't see if they wrote it themselves or sometimes, the record label, hey, we got this song that somebody else wrote. We want you guys to sing it. They didn't want it, but they did it, and it's their best-selling album ever. It's like 80 or 90% of all their income from that one simple song. And it benefits from having this battling guitars thing with two guitars, which the Rolling Stones are famous for. Keith Richards, Ronnie Wood with the two guitars. And the lead singer from Thin Lizzy, he played the bass. So he did the singing, and these other two guys whose names we don't even know. Phil Lynott is their lead singer. People that are interested in guitar music, they're driven to that song. So perhaps that's why it does. A little slightly over 500,000, 500 million streams. That's pretty good. Pretty good for streaming 50 years later.
Yeah, the research I did, they said part of the reason for its popularity is it is like the bachelor weekend, wha the boys are back in town, right? It's sorta
Oh,
like it's
yeah.
sorta like the movie Hangover. I don't know if it was in the movie Hangover, but it would be a perfect song for Hangover.
Well,
Uh,
well, you mentioned the movies. It's been in quite a few. It's been in Toy Story, which was, massive hit 20 years ago, and there's still out there. A Knight's Tale, with Heath Ledger. A lot of people are interested in him. Um, and another film called The Expendables. So it's been in some movies, and it does lend itself to that visual. The boys are back in town.
alright, we've only got 2 more to go. Hey, viewers, have you found out your favorite songs back from '76? Are they as popular today as they are back then or were back then? Let us know in the comments. Okay, it's Mamma Mia, Mamma Mia. Of course, it comes
Yeah.
in at number 2.
Yeah. So what's curious to me is the numbers I've got here. It was 38 on the top 40 that week, according to Cashbox, and would later peak out at 32 on American Top 40. And so it didn't, it did well in record sales, but not as well as some of their other songs. But oh my gosh, it's just a massive hit. And part of it is that movie that was made, what, 10, 12 years ago called Mamma Mia. Now there's a Broadway play, and so it gets this continuous visual audio reinforcement to generation after generation. Bingo, 548 million streams. That's better than a sharp stick in the eye.
Now, viewers, obviously, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, but let's just play make believe. Shout out what you think is the number one most streamed song from July the 4th, 1976. Come on now, shout it out. What do you think it is? What do you think it is?
Afternoon delight.
Wally, what is the number one most streamed song today from July the 4th, 1976?
You're My Best Friend by Queen. Wow. They are the juggernaut of streaming. Wow. Almost 700 million streams. Um, and, and we talked about Queen a few weeks ago. Who could have thought when they wrote these songs that they would be reinforced in so many movies and TVs and in the social uh, culture of generation after generation. And once again, doesn't hurt they had that movie, 2018, I think it was, about Freddie Mercury. Wow, just a massive, massive. And in record sales back then, it peaked at number 16. So it was on the way up, but it was probably in its final on the way up that particular week. Not the number one hit of the year 1976, but boy, it is the standout seller today by today's standards.
Yeah, it's really a song that crosses all age boundaries. I mean, it's a song that you can imagine a young kid even listening to today. So there you have it. Those are the top 10 now. And before we go any further, Wally's referred to it a couple times. Wally and I did a similar episode to this one, the Vanishing albums from the year 1976. I'm showing an image of that video here. You can check it out on the end screen. We'll have a link to that episode. All right. We got to get into what happened to the top 10. None. None are in the top 10 streamers today. As I kind of look at the list, I'm not surprised that John Travolta isn't a top streamer today. That song is, yeah, it's a song. It's John Travolta.
Yeah, if he
Doesn't
had
have the
not been
greatest
such a
voice.
huge TV star on the way up, it never would have sold back then.
Uh, Afternoon Delight not being number one, that makes me smile. I mean, it's the 11th most streamed, I think, so it's just outside the top 10. So it's still getting a lot of streams. It's just not in the top 10. Um, and as far as any other songs, we've already talked about Love is Alive with Gary Wright. The music's a little bit dated. It is synthesizer. It just hasn't held up well uh, over time. Any other comments on any of those songs?
Yeah, just you know, if we could go back in time and tell these songwriters and these bands, these singers, think about how this is going to go 50 years from now. It's got to have something special. If it's going to do well, it's got to have that lyrical connection that inspires this visual thing because I think that's really powerful. The visual connection. You get it in movies, TV. Um, and when we were young, Phil, remember artists would never let their music be in a commercial. But we see that all the time today. We see a lot of famous artists there, and once again, it's you're watching the TV. It might be a commercial about a bank or something, but their song is tied in. It's reinforcement. And I have read about modern music aimed at teenagers back in the early 2000s when my daughter was young. It was all tied in with those shows on Disney and Nickelodeon because it was the visual and the audio together and it was repeated. That's what gets the hook. That's what gets you to buy.
Yeah, it's just part of that fundamental. We tend to retain more of what the more senses we have involved in the experience, the more we tend to connect
Oh,
with it.
absolutely. Absolutely.
This has been quite an episode, Wally. Number one, and number two, I really appreciate all of the time and effort you put into this. And viewers, I hope you really enjoyed this. Now let's get into a segment. Wally, you may not be ready for this one, so it's going to be off the top of your head. All the work you put into it. What did you learn? What
What did
did
I
you learn?
learn?
Yeah, what
Um,
did you learn from this?
Yeah. Well, the main thing I learned that I didn't, last time we did something like this, what I learned was about these algorithms and the humans at the streaming platforms that curate the music, which when we, the listeners, look for something, that was the big thing I learned. And it drives us to certain things. I think what I learned this time was that there are, niche within a niche within a niche. So you could be on this 70s playlist, but I never knew there was a thing called the twin guitar that benefits Thin Lizzy. People that are interested in this two guitar thing, John Lennon and George Harrison, they were the two guitars, and the Beatles, nobody thinks of them as a two guitar, but so I learned about that. And then once again, I got reinforced this concept of the audio visual thing really, really works. And especially if it can be reintroduced to younger generations in movies and TV shows. And the thing that I really got driven home this time was this novelty thing might have been good back in the day, tie into a TV show or whatever, doesn't hold up in streaming. When people are interested in the Happy Days theme song, they go on YouTube and they watch stuff about Happy Days, the show, and they might hear the song, but they probably are going to drift off and watch more of the clips. See Fonzie jumping over that shark on the water skis.
Hey, viewers, let us know what you learned. Always interested in that. What did you pick up from this episode? I got a few things. I wrote down a couple things as we were going through the episode, Wally and viewers. Uh, I learned I'm not the only one that Afternoon Delight is a song that can fade. That's okay.
Yeah.
It can vanish. The impact of TV shows. What is there? 7, 8 songs out of the top 40 that has some
Easily. Easily.
connection to TV shows? I that was kinda news to me. I got reminded of the Beach Boys had kinda had a drought between the late '60s and into the '70s, so I forgot about that 7-year drought with the Beach Boys. That's something I got reminded of. Also, the incredible, and I've always said this about the '70s, it's like a Las Vegas buffet. I
Oh,
mean, it's
absolutely.
an incredible eclectic group of just about every genre imaginable is somehow on this list. I think it's a good representation of the music from the '70s as I remember it. Disco, we saw the beginning of the disco influence, um, that would soon fade out, which I'm grateful for. And I just am still smiling because I got reminded of the back in my college days, I would actually do the bump.
The bump.
And,
Which song was that you did that to again?
the one by,
Brothers
Parliament.
Johnson.
Yeah.
Parliament. Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Oh, gosh. Hey, viewers, we sure appreciate you joining us. Come back and join us again. Wally, thanks again for being a part of this. Hopefully, we'll do some more of these.
I'm always
And
up for it, Phil. I just love doing this.
and for viewers, check out the videos, one of the videos below, comment, and keep these music memories spinning, watching one of the videos. And until the next time, keep the coffee brewing and keep the conversation flowing.
Excellent.